you're going to put your thumb through the loop and you're going to go around the back of your wrist. So if it's your right hand, it would be thumb through the loop around the back of the wrist. We're going to do the left hand first. So through the thumb through the loop around the back of the wrist. We're going to go around the wrist a couple of times. Sorry if this is a little weird. I have to hold it at a weird angle. Usually I can look down at my hands and wrap them, but I'm trying to wrap them sideways so that you can see on video. So I'm going to go up now. After I've gone around my wrist a couple of times for support for the wrist, I'm going to go up over the thumb and back down where I just came from. Then from here, from underneath my thumb, I'm going to go up to the corner of the pinky knuckle right here, okay, with the wrap. Then make sure your fingers are spread nice and wide, and you can use your thumb for support under here as you make each lap, and we're going to go over these knuckles about 5 times. Depends how big your hands are, it could be more. If you got 180-inch wraps, it could be 6 or 7. There's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5, and I'll go a 6th time. There's 6. I got kind of mid-sized hands. So this pad that we just made, this is the pad for our knuckles. When we close up, this is what's going to protect our knuckles from bruising. So that's the purpose of all that. So then we're going to come back as though we're going to go one more time, and I'm going to put my thumb on it there to hold it into place. But instead of going over my knuckles one more time, I'm going to come down to the outside of the wrist here. Then I'm going to go under the thumb, and I'm going to start going up between my fingers and making these X's. So I'm going to go between the pinky and ring finger, and I'm going to come around in between this looser L right here, and I'm going to make an X. So see how I did that? I went up between the pinky and ring, around between the looser L, and made an X. Up, around, X. Okay. Then I come across the wrist under the thumb, between these 2 fingers, around, and make another X. And then between the I go under the thumb again, and I go between the last 2 fingers, between the middle and index, around between this L with the wrap, and make that last X. Yeah. And then with what's left of this wrap, I just go around the wrist until it velcros to itself. Hopefully you guys can see all of that. This is a little weird to hold this in front of, because usually when you're wrapping your hands, you're just looking down at it. The reason why I like this wrapping method, there may be other wrapping methods that you guys like, and they're probably all okay when you're inside of the glove. But when you're holding Thai pads like this, a lot of the time, if the last thing, in your wrapping method, if the last thing you do is make those laps over your knuckles, then as you hold, and this gets hit, these little wraps that go over your knuckles like this, they're going to get knocked forward, knocked forward, knocked forward, and they're going to start coming off. And you end up, everybody's had that incident, or you've seen someone that's got their wraps coming undone while they're holding Thai pads, and they got these long ribbons of hand wrap coming out. But if you do it this way, all these ones that come between your fingers, they hold that pad underneath into place. So that's why I like this method the best. As you're holding Thai pads and this gets hit, doesn't matter, it stays in place. Once more on the right hand, thumb through the loop, around the back of the wrist. Gonna go over the wrist a couple of times. 1, 2. Spread your hand out, go over the thumb and back down where you just came from. Then I'm gonna go from here up to the outside of the pinky knuckle, right there. Then I'm gonna make sure my knuckles are spread, and I'm gonna start wrapping over the knuckles. I managed to get 6 in, and that was nice and comfortable. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you guys' hands are about the same as mine, then you can get in a nice 6 times over the knuckles with 180-inch wraps. If your hands are a little smaller, you could get more. If your hands are a little bigger than mine, then you won't be able to get as many. Okay? Then I go as though I'm going on the 7th time, but I'm going to come down to the outside of the wrist instead. From this outside of the wrist, I'm going to start going between the fingers. From the outside of the wrist, across the front of the wrist, under the thumb. Then I'm going to go between pinky and pinky and ring, between the pinky and ring fingers, around, and make that X. between the ring and middle, around, make that X, up, around, X. Yeah, under the thumb again, between the middle and pointer, around, and make that last X. And then with what's left of this, I'm just going to wrap around until it velcros to itself. So now I've got good pads on my knuckles, I've got good support from my wrists, I'm ready to train.